The hidden truth about anger, why you explode, and how to stop. This comes up because I've seen a lot of posts on social media lately from influencers basically saying your anger is justified, your fury is righteous, you are the victim here, there's a big evil oppressor and they did something terrible to you, and your anger in response to this situation is completely and totally justified and there's nothing wrong with you. Okay, that is a helpful message for some people at some times. And if that's something that you find helpful for you and it's bringing you regulation and balance and freedom from the past and a joyful ability to pursue your future dreams without anything holding you down, and this is the message that gets you there, then go for it. 100%. But I believe that in most cases, that's not what's going to happen. So this is coming from someone that had massive anger management issues in the past. That's me. And I grew up in a childhood where almost every adult in my entire world of exposure had massive anger management issues that would blow up out of control, break things, destroy things, escalate to physical violence, rash actions that would have long-term negative consequences. That's the environment I grew up in. And so, of course, my little baby brain sees that and says, oh, this is an appropriate reaction. And then by the time I'm in my 20s, I've got anger management issues. And that took me many years to kind of sort through and figure stuff out. And I went to therapy and coaching and and reading lots of books. And now I live in a space where all that's behind me. And there's only a few triggers in my life that actually will evoke a true anger response. And most of those have to do with one person exploiting another, or situations of like institutionalized unfairness. And anyway, that's a whole other topic. What I want to talk about today is is anger righteous or not? That's a complex topic. But I think at the basic level, most people don't understand what anger is. Think of it this way. We have lots of evidence through various studies over the years that anger is kind of a secondary emotion. It is something that sits on top of sadness and fear. Like, okay, I'm really angry at my ex because she lied to me and then she sabotaged the relationship and then she went to go be with another person. And it's just like, I am so angry. Okay, we're going to start with that idea. That something happened to me, so it's really easy for me to tap into that space. How is this anything but anger? Well, let's dig deeper. It's like, I feel sad that my best friend is leaving my life forever, for good. I feel sadness that someone whose opinion I really respected has decided that their opinion of me is so low that they don't want to be in my life, and they don't want to remain friends, and they don't ever want to see me again. Like, so here's a person whose opinion I really value, and their opinion of me has become very low. So if I keep valuing her opinion, then it kind of bounces back at me, and now I feel horrible about myself. Because obviously I'm so bad that you don't want to be with me, right? This is the core wounds at work. So I have this sadness that I'm losing a bunch of things that I care about. I have a fear wrapped up kind of in that this sadness is going to be there forever. That this situation of being unwanted, unlovable, left, betrayed, et cetera, I have sadness that anyone would treat me that way, especially someone that I hold so close to my heart. And that if that's going to happen to this person who I've given so much energy to, then why wouldn't it happen with lots of people? That if that's going to happen with someone that I hold so near and dear to my heart, then wow, how unsafe am I with just random people, right? If the relationship I pour my life into has decided that I'm so unnecessary, unwanted, unattractive, whatever, these are, again, the core beliefs, the core wounds. If that's happening here, then it's going to happen everywhere, right? So I have this kind of sadness and fear that this situation I'm in is because I'm bad, because I already have the core wounds. This is the Jungian shadow kind of idea. I already have the beliefs inside me that that's true. And now what this person has done is just activated those beliefs when previously they were suppressed. So I have this sadness about it, I have this fear about it, but that's not what comes up first. What comes up first is this like righteous fury, this anger. Okay, why is that? And this is what I think happens. We've got this thing down underneath the surface that we're going to call the subconscious or inner child. It's a different part of me. It is a part of me that creates emotions. It has automatic responses. It has habitual responses. It gives me a whole bunch of neat things, right? It allows me to drive without really thinking. It allows me to, play basketball, dribble, do various physical activities, walk upright, dance. Basically anything that's kind of automatic or quick response, reacting to fear, reacting to threat, reacting to a ball being thrown at my head. That's this part of my mind that kind of lives under the surface that I don't really have access to. It kind of does its own thing. And when it needs to take control of the system, it will take control of the system. And then I will react very quickly without really my conscious thought being involved in it. This is why I call my system the two-mind method. It's kind of like recognizing that these are two different things. They have two different memory systems. They have two different survival strategies. And they have two different kind of goals, motives, whatever. So that part of me is the part that emotions come from. Because when you really think about it, I'm here living my life, living in this brain where I live. I'm here walking through my life in this brain where I live. And emotions just kind of appear, right? It's not like I go through this process where I'm constructing the emotion or manufacturing it or thoughtfully deciding which emotion I'm going to feel. No, it's like it just kind of appears in my mind. There's something else that is authoring that emotion and then delivering it to me. And so the emotion is delivering to me is anger. Why? And this is what I think is happening. In these situations where like, okay, here's my ex, she's just lied and cheated and now she's leaving or whatever. It's like, if I sink into sadness and fear, which are probably the truer emotions of that are in response to the situation, what does my nervous system do? It downregulates. It decreases activity. You sink into this kind of depressive, avoidant fugue where you don't want to go out. You don't really want to do anything. You don't want to be active in life. It is like basically you retreat from the situation and you kind of sink into your own misery. This is what happens for a lot of people when they bypass the anger step and they just sink into the kind of depressive mode. Fear motivates us to retreat, and sadness motivates us to kind of sink in, isolate, freeze, maybe, if you want to talk about fight, flight, freeze response. And both of those behaviors, retreating and sinking into inaction, would be unhelpful in this situation. Here's a situation where I don't really have any agency. I can't make this person stay. Here's a reality that I really don't like. It's very painful and I have no agency in it. So if I just sink into inaction or retreat from it, then I will stay in the same misery. What your subconscious is saying is, I want you to change reality. And we have some kind of power inside ourselves to actually do it, to actually implement some kind of change into this situation. through our energy, our motivation, our adrenaline, cortisol, action, whatever. So instead of giving us fear and sadness, it gives us anger instead. It gives us an elevated nervous system. It gives us a surge in stress hormones. It gives us a surge in adrenaline, which is one of the stress hormones. It gives us this big, overwhelming power potential. And then it also, those same stress hormones go up into the thinking part of our brain and basically shuts it off. So now I'm not worried. I'm not cognitively contemplating the consequences of my action. I'm not thinking about negative consequence. I'm not thinking about a plan. Those parts of my brain are just not online. They get put to sleep, and then the system is given a big surge of energy. And then what happens? I act. I act rashly. I act impulsively. I act with nasty words and nasty action and everything else. And then the energy that is inside my body goes out into the environment and changes something. Maybe I break a window. Maybe I break a chair. Maybe I lash out at another human being. Hopefully not. That's the source of anger. That's the dynamic in which anger operates. Anger is a gift from your nervous system, your subconscious, inner child, whatever you want to call it. It is a gift to you to give you the excess energy you need in order to enact change on your environment. That's what it is. It's like, we don't like what's happening here. Change it. And here's all the energy to do it. And as a bonus, I'm going to turn off the part of your brain that might tell you you're doing something wrong. So we act rationally, right? That part of the nervous system is saying, we don't want to sink into sadness and fear right now because that's not going to change anything. We will stay here. So here's anger, so you'll change something. So I have these people that will show up in my classes and just be like, Kirby, I've got this recurring anger problem that like, I just get so furious at my mom, dad, boyfriend, whatever, or self. And I do the calming routines and I do the breathing and I do the tapping and whatever else whatever other distractive coping mechanisms they've been taught to bring regulation to their nervous system. And they're like, okay, I get myself to a regulated state and I'm calm and I'm grounded and I'm in touch with my higher self and I'm a good boy or girl because I'm not letting anger control my life and la, 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 right? And so they go through that process and then they get themselves back to a regulated state and then the stimulus comes back. You know, same boyfriend says the same thing, mom or dad, or same critical bullshit, whatever, right? And then they rage out again. This is literally, I'm describing like a whole decade of my life that was the cycle I was in. And I see it in other people so clearly now. And they say, I've got an anger management issue. Like I've got an anger problem. Everyone knows that I rage out when quickly and unpredictably, or maybe even predictably, but whatever, right? I've been identified as having an anger problem. Totally unhelpful. And it's not really the issue. That's not you have an anger problem. That's you have an action problem. The anger is the signal to you to say, there's something about this environment that I'm in that my deepest self does not like. It does not align with me. It is hostile. It feels unsafe, whatever, right? It doesn't really matter. The key thing is my nervous system doesn't like the reality and the situation that I'm in, and it wants it to change. And so change it. At the most basic level, your nervous system simply does not like the environment that you're in. So change it. That's the response that we need to get. That's the information, the message we need to get from anger. If I have anger arise inside me, I need to look at this and say, oh, something about me that I don't have full access to is telling me it does not like this situation and it wants it to be different. So I need to begin strategizing, how am I going to make this situation different? If I don't, the anger will return. over and over and over and over again, infinitely. Literally, like as long as you're alive, that anger will keep coming back and plaguing you and demanding that you change the situation. So if we look at it through that lens, we can see that, like, is your anger justified or righteous or whatever? Maybe, sure. Like, it's kind of immaterial. Like, treating anger like it's some kind of, fundamental, rule of the universe or rule of human psychology or something is not helpful. Do you want to be in a world where this anger that you are experiencing returns, stays present in you, and keeps plaguing your future decisions, your future thought space, your future well-being, your future mental health, whatever? Is that the world you want? Then sure, stay in your anger. Keep believing it's righteous. Keep fighting the good fight, or whatever it is the motive is that you've got around this. It's very egoic at the most basic level, but most people aren't ready to hear that yet. If you want a different future, if you want to get to a world where this anger is behind you, then take action. Do something different. And people say, I can already hear some of them. They're just like, but I did take action. I got myself out of that situation. Hooray. Fantastic. Congratulations. Like, now you know what that feels like. Now you know how empowering that is. Now you know that this is something that's possible, and your entire nervous system has learned that you have agency and power in that situation, and you can take action. Wonderful. But then we'll get to the point where they say, no, I will not let go of my anger because they did something horrible to me. Now we're into something. Now we're into something a little bit different. This isn't an anger issue. This is an issue of refusal, resistance to letting go, resistance to moving on, resistance to reaching a point where this is behind you. And that's interesting. And I've done that in my past, so I can connect with that. It's kind of this idea that's like, she did this horrible thing. She manipulated me. She used my good wishes. I have all this positive energy for you, and you just consume that to go fuel your own selfish desires. Like, that was one that I went through. You lied, you brought deceit, like a long-term deception, into our relationship, and you manipulated me for a long period of time. Like, that's horrible. I don't want to forgive you for that. Forgive? Is forgive the right word? That's an interesting question that we all need to ask ourselves. It's like, that's a situation where it's like, no, I'm still furious about this. I'm still hurt by this. The fact that this situation played out, especially with someone that I trusted so closely, that reality hurts. And I'm swimming in my pain. And I will not let go of it. Because it's like, the moment that I move beyond this, if I actually want to move to a reality and a world and a way of being and a way of living where that pain is behind me, that anger is no longer coursing through my veins, I have to move past the hurt. Is that forgiveness? I'm not sure it is. I have resistance inside myself of letting go of this pain, because it's like, in this situation, I was a victim, and I want sympathy for it. I want compassion. I want pity. I want people to come stand by my side and say, yeah, she really did a horrible thing to you. She's a big, bad, terrible person, and you're the innocent victim here. You tried so hard. That was a motive that lived inside me for a long time. And I'll tell you, it doesn't help. That whole dynamic of holding on to that pain, holding on to that anger, refusing to let it go, because if I let that go, I have to let go of the identity of being victimized. If I let that go, I have to let go of this idea that the big bad oppressor is evil and bad and I can point the finger of blame and shame at them. I have to let go of that. And I think this is because Western culture has this weird thing where it's just like, if we're not actively shaming, destroying, tearing down, if we're not actively tearing down someone that's done a bad thing, that somehow that means we're complicit or approving or permitting it. And I think that's the driving force here that's just toxic as F, right? And I know that it plagued me for a long time. And if you're listening to this, I hope it does not plague you. I hope you can reach a point where you can realize that this weird message that's coming from Western culture is totally 100% full of shit. Do not accept that into your mind space. It's like a sick thought virus. It is, just because we're not tearing them down does not mean we give the stamp of approval. Hey, good job. You're okay. No, we can say that's totally and completely unacceptable. And we don't want it as part of our culture. We don't want it. I don't want it in my personal relationships. I don't want it in my friends. I don't want it in my marriages, whatever, right? This is a totally non-negotiable. I do not want it in my life, but I'm also not going to stress about it. I'm not going to sit here and actively try to tear apart anyone who's in that space. Okay, your journey may be different, but I can tell you my journey, that as I began studying this stuff and become more and more acutely aware of the dynamics of mental health and attachment theory and all this other kind of stuff, there's no other conclusion than this person on the other side is a wounded child. And instead of dehumanizing them into a worse and worse monster, I began humanizing them into a more and more relatable, sad, wounded child. That this dynamic that they're engaged in is driven from their own pain, their own fear, their own terror, their own unresolved wounds. And I don't have to accept any of that. I can still be fully boundaried in that. Like, that's completely unacceptable. I see that you are a wounded child and this is where you're coming from. But at the same time, I can be like, this is unacceptable. I will not have it around me. And if you want to maintain a relationship with me, it's something that needs to be different. And I can approach that without anger. I can approach it with compassion. I can approach it with a humanizing patience. And now, after the last 50 years of research and experimentation and everything else, we see unequivocally, without question, that the humanizing approach is better at healing emotional wounds and mental health issues. The humanizing approach bridges gaps. The humanizing approach ends wars. The humanizing approach brings an end to conflict. Whereas the dehumanizing approach, you're bad, you're evil, you're the vicious, I'm the victim here, whatever. Like, we reduce the complexity of this human being into this simple archetype of enemy villain. We villainize them. The villainizing approach creates conflict, creates mental health problems, creates trauma, or amplifies mental health problems and amplifies trauma. The villainizing, dehumanizing approach makes everything worse. And there's people out there with anger management issues that say, they're still struggling with anger, being like, no way, no how. There's absolutely no way I will ever get to a point where I can treat that villain as a human being. Okay. If that's where you're at, that's where you're at. I hope it serves you well. It did not serve me well. It has not served anyone I know well. And I just truly hope that that path that you're on of holding on to that rage, believing it's justified, and demonizing the other, I hope that reaches some kind of conclusion that brings peace to your life and the lives of the people around you. If we really look at this deeply and over a long period of human history, we can kind of see this humanizing approach and the dehumanizing approach. The dehumanizing approach really only has one way of ending conflict, and that's murder everything. It's in biblical stories, it's in ancient texts, it is in basically all woven through human history. That like humans go into a situation, we do not like the situation that's here. We have another group of anything, trees, animals, other tribes, elders, fish even, like, or just nature itself. Like this forest is too close, right? Or bugs, gnats, mosquitoes, viruses, whatever. We show up, we say, we don't like this situation. We're going to go to conflict against it. And it's like slash and burn, eradicate everything. And if you can successfully exterminate that force that is creating your discomfort, then you're done. And you can move into this place where you have total comfort, control, mastery, and whatever that inconvenience is, it's not here anymore. So that to me seems to be humanity's approach to the dehumanizing approach to conflict, right? That's the solution to the dehumanizing approach to conflict. But for most of the rest of the time, we're dealing with another human being on some level. Maybe we're dealing with a boss, a family member, a loved one, whatever. We're dealing with a human being, and extermination isn't really a viable option. And so we either seek to humanize, seek for connection, seek to find some way of negotiating a way that we can coexist peacefully, or we stay in a constant state of conflict. And the constant state of conflict will not be received well by my nervous system. And what's it going to do? It's going to generate a bunch of anger. And so I will have a continuing degree of anger arising in my life around that religious group or that geographic tribe or the people who believe the earth is flat or the people that follow this particular politician or the people that like that sports team or whatever. Right? There will be all this anger. We see it every day. I mean, I'm from America, and so like when I lived in America, it was literally a daily occurrence. You could not, unless you completely isolated every single day, you could not walk through a day where you were not exposed to someone being righteously, furiously angry about something that is as stupid as hell. And it's like it's a culture, it's like an identity there. It's like, yeah, if that's the world you want, if you want to have an entire identity oriented around what you're angry at and which people are going to agree with you and agree that you're the victim or they're the bad guy or whatever, if that's the life you want, then go for it. Just please don't ever have children. I teach these classes and I share this approach. And sometimes there's these people that are just being like, they're incredulous. And they're just like, there's no way. They're like, that thing that was so horrible, there's no way that that's never going to be affecting my life. And I'm like, absolutely, you can reach that point. I've done it myself. I've guided many people through it. What do you want? Do you want to be angry? Do you want to feel righteous? Do you want to feel superior? Do you want to feel like you're the victim? Do you want to be in a world where that other thing, person, whatever, is the big evil bad guy and they are the oppressor? And is this a world you want to live in for the rest of your life? You need to make that choice. And if you choose that path, that's fine. No one's going to say you're wrong. But there's consequences for that. And you will eventually begin to see them. If you want the other path, if you want the path that anger is behind me, it is time to find your sadness, find your fear, face them directly, and choose every single day, choose that I want to live in a life of calm, grounded, joy, happiness, interest, curiosity, fun, unpredictability. I do not want these events of my past to define my entire mental and emotional well-being for my future. I want to let all that go. If you need help with that, message me. Or someone like me. There's lots of us out here that work on this stuff. We enjoy working on this stuff. We love helping people. Reach out. There's help. I believe in you. I believe you can do this if you choose. And I wish you all the peace in the world.